Hey there guys, this is ObsidianChill. Got another video for you today. And this one we have Survival Mode Season 2, round 30 completion. Now, I'll start off the video saying that for some reason OBS didn't record all the audio. I'm not sure why. But instead of me making mental noises and like source storm noises for 40 minutes, I figured I'd do at least a commentary. This also isn't the entire SM round 30. Basically what I did was the start of the video is basically just like the first 3-4 minutes of the encounter, and then after that, when the effigies come out, is basically when I cut to the video. But between the effigies coming out, it's really the exact same thing over and over again, so it's not like there's anything missing. The main part is how the group handles the effigies, or when the effigies are out, and I'll touch on the effigies more in the commentary. I just wanted to explain. I did put timestamps to each one just in case you want to see them, but it just saves it being, I think it saves like 15 minutes off the commentary, and me 15 minutes of me trying to find random music that to fill the silence in the background. So that's why the video is set up the way it is. I mean, for some reason, if you want to see the entire preview or the entire round, I can upload it unlisted and just attach it to this video if you want, but really there's nothing going on besides just waiting for orbitals on his lunge phase to drop his health to the next effigy phase. So let's kind of start this off with so that the video here is going to be, I'm going to be covering obviously the round 30 mechanics and what to look for, strategies, tips, stuff like that. And then I'm also going to be taking this opportunity to kind of do like a review of Survival Mode Season 2. Because this is the first video in a series of them. I have all the rounds from 20 to 29 uploaded, recorded as well. So I figured I'd do clips of all those rounds. Same thing, just explaining what the round is and having some kind of commentary to talk about as well. So I'll have those uploaded as well. Probably not individually each video, because I mean that's just kind of overkill. I'll probably do like each video will be like 3 or 4 rounds, so then it works out to be like 2-3 videos. So, and it's also, I wanted to clarify, if you saw my SM post from a couple days ago, because we beat this a while ago. I didn't get a chance to upload the video because I wanted to kind of spread it out. Plus, I had other stuff to do. So I just did a post showing that we beat it that one day. Nowhere in the post did I say you had to be in a specific league to complete SM. I have no idea where people are getting that point out of that post, because nowhere did I say that at all or allude to that. I just said that when SM round 30 was completed, but the first leagues that completed it are the ones you typically see, those elite endgame leagues. It's not like other players that aren't capable of beating SM. It's just that compared to Season 1, in Season 1 all you had to do was automatically get to Ultraman. If you got to Ultraman, you could automatically get the crown. It was easy. Like I personally don't know many groups that failed round 30. Usually once you get to 30, unless something happened and screwed up, but yeah, if you got to 30, you beat it. So we'll kind of touch, now that we're on to the first effigy fight. So the concept of this fight is that we have source storms on the outside, but they're not always out. So basically you'll see the white text come up, but it's periodically, just depends on what Zeus's phase is. For example, here, as you can see, new dies and then the source storm is moving. So you have to watch that revive, because obviously you want to keep Zeus, ideally if you're a tank, on the outside. So you're playing in and out of the storms, because if Zeus is in the center, he can proc his melee, it's called a ground pound. You'll see it before, you'll see it proc a number of times in the video, because that's part of the strategy, is basically to run in and out of range and have the second tank proc it so that he slams. It makes it very difficult for the res. It also, if he runs to the center, he can melee slam, and then all of a sudden the healer and myself die because we're in the middle, where the tanks play on the outside. So that's why the storms can be a little bit troublesome for reses, because if the storms decides to stop on your body, you can't get the res, or if you're reviving and then the source storm is moving towards that revive, so that it becomes kind of like a cat and mouse game with the source storm. So when the effigy comes out, the first one comes out as the DPS. It's always in the same order. It's always going to be the DPS statue, the troller statue, the tank statue, and the healer statue. They always came out in the exact same order, regardless. They're also at the exact same health instances. So this one comes out about 90-ish%, maybe like 85, but it's closer to 90%. And then basically each one will have a debuff associated with it, similar to that Fracture God Sphere Elite. So with that debuff, the DPS statue, it's actually funny. I think the very first time I did SM round, we did the first round 30. I wasn't paying attention to the statue. It was probably like a good 2 or 3 minutes where I was paying attention to Zeus and the statue. I wasn't paying attention to my DPS numbers or the parser log. and I'm like, oh, why am I hitting for like ones? And I realized that I was in melee range to the statue, so it was a good like 3 minutes wasted me DPSing because I'm not hitting anything. So if I got close to the effigy of Ares, all my attacks just hit for 1. That's all it is. So obviously that's a huge factor for the DPS. I mean, you can use quad bombs like you'll see in this video. Quad bombs are very useful against the effigy statue, even though they're severely nerfed from what they used to be. It's just that the health is so high. I think that I'm pretty sure the quad bombs is like 1.15 or something like that of the maximum health of an ad. But since these are 527 tier ads, you're pretty much guaranteed to have a 100k hit from a quad bomb until he's at about 40% health. Once he's below 40, then you'll see like the hits of quad bombs go down to like 80s and 70s. So it's something that certainly speeds it up. So that's something that quad bombs are very useful. Quad bombs not going to work on Zeus. It's only going to work on the effigy statues. So it's very handy to have. It's a little bit awkward for the tank to use it. I wouldn't suggest the tank use it. I would suggest the healer and the battle troll use it, or the DPS if you're not using a battle troll. But my stance is that you should have a battle troll for this round. Not that it's necessarily required, but I would prefer for a battle troll just for the debuffs, which I can touch on. I'm be making kind of jumpy commentaries here, but I will be making a battle troll loadout for all power sets. That's going to be probably coming tomorrow or Monday. One of the two. But yeah, that's my next video to make. But yeah, it's a little bit awkward for the tank to use it, and even the healer sometimes, because essentially the healer is getting a lot of the lunge. When the effigy statue is out, the healer is getting the lunges on Zeus for the main primary tank. Not because the other tank can't do that, because they got the effigy statue on them. So that's why the healer's probably not the best at using quad bombs. It should just be one player, because he has to make sure that he's not like an awkward quad bombation. He has to be ready to get that lunge on Zeus. So, and once the effigy statue comes out, it's dead, and the fight goes back to normal. Literally, it's going to be the exact same thing. And then with that fight, all you're doing is basically keeping Zeus on the outside ring, walking him around, and then getting him a Procus Slam. That's essentially what you do for the half an hour, 40 minutes in terms of that range. And the same thing, when the effigy of Hectate comes out, that's the troll debuff one. The troll debuff one really does nothing. I mean, you'll see in the screen here, I lose 200 power at a time, and it's literally nothing. It's basically an inconsequential debuff. It's an ad. So same thing, exact same strategy. You can use quad bombs. You can use I should have mentioned it before, but orbital strikes deal the most damage to the effigy statues, so that's the primary strategy with the tank statue. The tank statue you want to get out the fastest. So basically, you can drop 4 orbitals on an effigy statue, and pretty much, I don't think it one-shots it, but it would bring it down to like 10-15% health. So that's a little bit tricky, because if you use an orbital strike, you don't see it in the video footage here because we just only did it on the lunge phase. So, but if you've run FGSE before, if Zeus is not in his lunge phase, then he'll proc the orbital strike mechanic, which will have white circles on the ground, similar, because I'm using the Source Storm orbital. That's why that effect is there. But basically, it'll summon orbital strikes around the room, and you just have to dodge them. Really, it's not worth the risk to using it outside of lunge phase. It's really not. It's just too much of a risk that something RNG could happen, where like a tank could go and accidentally hit it, or a healer goes down because there's some group members not paying attention. It's really not worth the risk. So what you do is you only drop orbitals during his lunge phase. So the lunge phase is something you have to get 4 lunges off, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's 4. It's not 4 each, it's 4 collectively. So the tank could get a couple lunges, the healer could get a couple lunges, you can see me go for a couple lunges. So that's on the group, depending on who they want to get lunges for. We had new use Shadow Restraint, so he has group immunity to get the lunges much easier. If you're not, you're going to get pushed back. I think you may see us get pushed back a few times in terms of you want to know what that looks like. You could use a break, like the other tank, Brittany's got a breakout trinket. I don't think Sailor or Miss Universe is running a breakout trinket, but same thing. I mean, technically you use a breakout trinket as well. It's just that you want to have some type of immunity for getting the lunges. It just makes it it makes it a lot faster, because instead of being pushed back, it costs you about 1 lunge. So you could get 4 lunges back to back to back to back if you had immunity. If not, you're getting lunge, lunge, lunge. Like, it's much slower, but you can still get those 4 lunges off. But yeah, anytime you see that phase, you have that entirety of that lunge phase to drop that orbital strike. So see now Zeus is doing the lunge. See I'm getting pushed back. See how slow that is? So that's without a grip immunity. So you can still get them, it's just much slower. But if you drop an orbital strike during that duration, it does not proc his timer. If you hit it towards the end of that lunge phase, it can carry forward and then does proc the orbital strikes after the fact. But as long as you're dropping it during that lunge phase, it does not proc the extra, basically, punishment for using an orbital strike. So that's really all it is. I mean, you can save your, since you know the effigies come out at the exact same health parameters each time, you can save your orbital strikes to be able to use them at that same time so that it gets the statues out right away. You'll see here with the tank statue coming up, I mean, for one, different groups can handle the tank statue a different way. You'll see me momentarily switch armories. So the way we decided to deal with it is that we have I have the lasso artifact. So it's lasso artifact's kind of the niche gimmicky one that Batuba made that Yanks add. It doesn't stun them, it just pulls them away, and it doesn't aggro because I'm on troll stance. But the advantage of lasso is that it overrides the dom cap, so I don't have to have 21,000 dom to be able to pull an ad. It's because it's a lasso artifact. So that's why that's the strategy we used for the one, because the tank debuff one, basically it removes the, basically brings the defense, and I don't think it's restoration, I'm pretty sure it's just defense of the tank that it hits down to 0. So that's an issue. So obviously you don't really want a tank dealing with that. It's ideally you'd have some other method. We just chose the lasso method. Then for some reason halfway through it breaks. So I'll touch on that now. I'm not entirely sure why you don't see a lot of round 30 footage from other leagues being posted, like of entirety. You just see like the final 2 to 3 minutes posted. I'm not sure if that's because that the effigy statues bugged out on them, like the tank statue here, and that's why they're not posting, because possibly they had all 4 statues bug out. I don't know. It's an RNG thing. So what that means is that for some reason, somehow, the effigy statues can bug out. And what I mean by that is it basically walks around and doesn't attack. My guess it has to do something with lasso, because most of the tanks here, except ice, because I'm pretty sure ice tanks are just using frost snipe. I don't think they're using lasso at all. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the tanks are just using well, I mean, New is using lasso, so there's that. But I'm pretty sure some other tanks are using frost snipe. But most of the tanks are always using lasso as a hard taunt, because a lot of the other tanks, like say rage, is like the rage blast, fires like same thing, fireball. So you have a really awkward projectile as a hard taunt, which is not ideal. It's not a pull. The projectile can miss. So projectile hard taunts are not really the best thing in the world. So people use lasso. So my assumption would be that something happens when you lasso the effigy statue and it just breaks and doesn't do anything. So the tank statue still kept moving around, but each time I use lasso, I pull it towards me. So I wasn't sure. I wasn't entirely sure if it broke until we got to the healer statue, which you'll see probably in a few minutes. But then the healer statue did break, so you'll see a better example of that, because I wasn't using lasso on the healer effigy. But I'm not sure why it does this. It's not consistent, because you can see that the DPS statue and the tank statue, or sorry, the DPS statue and the troll statue didn't do that, and the tanks are still using lasso, and then all of a sudden the tank statue breaks because we use lasso. In definite taps, different things happen. Like I think in a few of our other tabs, like the DPS statue would break, and then none of the other statues would break. Some groups have said like the healer statue broke. And the DPS troll 1 and tank 1 are fine. So I don't know. It seems to be different for each and every group. That's why maybe they're not showing the entire footage, because they don't want to show that they're breaking. But I mean, it's completely RNG. It happens out of randomness. So that's the only unfortunate thing. But I mean, as you can see here, the effigies aren't strong enough to kill the tank at all. Like you could have a DPS troll 1, you could have them beat on you the entire time. And if the tank one, if the troll didn't want to use lasso, all you do was kite it out. So you just basically either knock it down and have something like Resonating Gale if you're an ice tank, or you just basically keep kiting it. Because the same thing, if you're the off tank and not the primary tank, it doesn't really matter if you're debuffed anyway. So because you're not going to be tanking Zeus, so you can be the primary tank's role. And the other thing too is, like I said before, with the 4 orbital statues almost killing an effigy, if you didn't have the effigy bug out like this, for instance, all you do is the very first lunge phase on Zeus, you just drop 4 orbitals on the effigy, and that's it. That's all you'd have to do. So that's the workaround for that. So if the tank statue, if you're wondering how to deal with that without using lasso as an artifact, or without using it, the simplest strategy is basically just have the second off roll tank take it. Just deal with the debuff, because you're not going to die through the debuff. And then basically you have a choice. Either you can wait for the lunge phase, or you can just drop all 4 orbitals right at the very beginning, and then basically just dodge the punishment. Because you could do that as well. You could kill a tank statue in like the first 15-20 seconds of the encounter. You just drop all 4 orbitals and then just roll out of the circles of the punishment. So there's different ways to deal with it. It's just unfortunate that it seemed to bug out there. I wasn't sure if it was just because I'm using lasso, but it was confirmed when the healer statue comes out in a moment. Here you'll see it just kind of sits around and does nothing. It doesn't attack like the DPS one and the troll one did. So same thing. You could see Brittany use lasso as soon as it came out. So yeah, because this one we knew for sure, because as you can see, it's just standing around doing nothing. At least the tank statue was moving around and trying to follow players, so it wasn't trying to do weapon attacks, but it was at the same time it was following the player around. So that's why I wasn't sure if it was just my lasso effect and with the artifact, or if something else happened. But this is the healer statues, is obviously something happened to that one. But same thing. I mean, the healer statue, all it does is debuff the resto, so really it has no effect if it hits a DPS or another tank at all. So the same thing. You would treat the Effigy of Hades the exact same way you would treat the troll one and the DPS one. The exact same thing. So you just drop orbitals during the lunge phase. You're throwing quad bombs at it, stuff like that. So you handle them the exact same way that you would each and every other Effigy round. So in terms of that's pretty much it. The effigies, they're really just there to annoy you. So essentially, all the effigy statues do is their risk is just that it puts more pressure on the primary tank, because the off tank has to have the effigy statue. You don't want the effigy statue and Zeus and everything on top of you, because say if something happened, then you have the statue attacking you, you have Zeus doing the ground pound. It'd just be hard for the res. So when you have them on opposite sides, you have a lot more dependence on your healer, because obviously that battle troll is going to be trying to kill the statue, so he's not on Zeus. The other tank is on Zeus, holding it on the opposite side. So you have the primary tank and the healer, and the healer's job is to get the lunges for the primary tank. So it just puts a little bit more pressure on that situation until the effigy's out. So say, you'll see a bunch of times here where reses need to be happening and stuff like that. But that's all the effigies do. The effigies aren't there to kill the players. It's there basically just to put more pressure on the main tank, because he has to basically not so much solo Zeus, but he has a lot less dependence, where if you didn't have an effigy statue, you have the healer, you have the tank, and you have the battle troll, all 3 roles helping you get lunges, or if your manacle procs, you can basically trade with the other tanks until your manacles proc comes back, which a strategy we used as well. So it's just, that's all the effigies do, is just create a situation where something can happen, a bit more RNG go the wrong way. Other than that, he's got his arc lightning phases, same thing. They're risky, but all they're going to do is tick you for like 60, 70k. It's a lot easier with a water healer, because you'd have always the constant shields on you. So if he's going to do his arc lightning, really you just move out of the way. It's not something that's going to kill you. If you had another healer power set, that could be something more of a danger, because you're not going to have that constant shield protection, where we always have like a bubble or tempest guard on us, so we have some sort of mitigation towards that arc. But I think I've stood it in a bunch of times, and it took like 4 or 5 arcs to damage me to the point where like I had to take a soda or something like that. So that's all you have to watch out for that one. Other than that, I can't think of any other mechanics per se. It's really hard, because it's not so really hard showing it from like a battle troll point of view, because really same thing with like SM season 1. It's really SM season 1 and season 2 are so reliant on the tanks in terms of what they have to do. Like, their jobs are much harder than the troller and the healer. We're basically just here sitting watching. Same thing, like you could argue the same thing with like a battle tank, because like it's really just the primary tank's job, but some rounds will be dependent on 2 tanks. But it's really all I'm doing is DPSing and watching Zeus, or trying to get some revives or stuff like that, or calling out lunges and stuff like that. Even the healer's doing a lot more lunges than I am, because it's just awkward with the might rotation. So I'm going to try to switch tank. I'm just not depends on my schedule and on how much free time I have, but I do want to tank and then get some tank footage in terms of some of those other rounds like 22, 26, 20, maybe 25, because I guess a lot of people are struggling we're struggling on Mr. Freeze on 25. We kind of just did it like I think it was like 25 minutes or something like that. It wasn't really concerned at all. So, but I mean, if people are struggling on that, I can do it as well. So basically like 22, 25, 26, 27, 28. I'd probably skip 29 because it's the same thing over and over again, but I could do 29 as well. And then, so just depending on how much time I have to switch tank for that, I could, just to get you a better point of view, because like I said before, I mean, a battle troll point of view or even a healer point of view, it's the same thing. You're just basically just hitting buttons. I'm watching Zeus and hitting buttons. It's not that I'm doing anything consequential really at all. That's just on the tanks. So the footage here, basically since all 4 effigies are out, this is essentially what you're doing now. It's just waiting for orbitals. That's all it is. So Zeus will do the exact same thing. He'll do a source lightning phase. He'll lunge out. He's got his melee ground pound. His weapon taps hit for about 250k. He's also got his weapon range throw because he's two-handed. So that's really all you're doing. It's just basically just tagging him, blocking. It's pretty risky to block the lunge. I don't think Nu is blocking that lunge, or because of that. Basically, after Zeus lunges, he can finish that combo, which basically makes the res very difficult, because when he's finishing that two-handed big scoop combo, it takes, I think, like 3 or 4 seconds even for the animation to play out. So then that's 3 or 4 seconds you can't get the res. You have to wait, and then if he hasn't procced his melee ground pound, that's pretty much a wipe, because as soon as you go in for the res, he's going to slam. But other than that, it's just orbitals. Really, I mean, once again, it's not difficult to miss an orbital, where, say, like 29 with like Ultimate Soldier was extended because you can miss the orbitals really easy. Here, it's really not. I wouldn't say it's perfect to miss orbitals, because he does this like on a moonwalk, so you have to body block him on the lunge phase. So he just kind of drift away from your orbital. I've seen it happen before, where you drop your orbitals too quick, right at the second the lunge phase starts, and then basically he moonwalks out of your orbital. So all I did was just basically lunge in, get my lunges, and then once I knew Zeus wasn't moving, and drop my orbital. So there's plenty of time for that. So it's not like it's a very tight window at all. But yeah, I mean, that's it. So I know I didn't really talk so much of like an SM review. I guess I've kind of got like a few minutes here to talk about it, just with the end of the round. So I'm still happy with how this SM turned out. Yeah, there's still tons of speed hackers. I'm not sure if they're going to get taken care of by Maps. Maps said he's going to take care of them. I mean, we've got probably hundreds of speed hackers at this point because of the difficulty. But to me, this was still a success, because SM Season 1 was relied so heavily on the lunge spamming. You didn't even need to speed hack. You literally didn't need to speed hack Season 1, because it was so easy by lunge spamming. All the tanks did, or all the groups did, was just lunge spam their way to a crown. So at least with Season 2, they can't do that. I mean, it's similar. I mean, yeah, you're dodge rolling, gray range tanking, stuff like that, where it's similar. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's still, I'd take it any day over lunge spam. So this SM wasn't designed to be perfect. It was basically just like a filler between the next episode. So my hopes are see. That was an example of him kind of moonwalking into an orbital. But yeah, I mean, my focus would be on the Season 3, because that's one is basically, it's not going to be this map. It's going to be newer bosses, different boss combinations, stuff like that. So at that point, we can control the difficulty a bit more, because with this SM Season 1 and Season 1.5 or Season 2, depending how you look at it, the difficulty relies in the boss order, and really there's just not enough difficult boss choices. You have everything where either you have the gray range tank, or it's like easy bosses like Baron Savage, or even Minotaur is really easy. Like it's just the boss choices weren't conducive to a difficult SM. I mean, Mr. Freeze, the same thing, is really straightforward. I mean, Zeus was nice, but I would still take Vampire Lord over Mr. Freeze. So this is round 30. You'll probably see me talk about more about the season review and the other commentaries, because I know this talked about more about the strategies, but I mean, that makes sense with a 30. So I'll probably pick up the review conversation in another video. So take care, guys. Thanks for watching. As always.